Okay, so my next video I'm going to show how to install Windows Vista, Windows XP and Windows 7 again on the Oracle VirtualBox Manager. As you see, I already have Windows Server 2008 up and running. So first I'm going to do the Windows XP machine. So I'm going to click on New. Windows name, call it Windows XP. Okay, well, we already have the type is going to be Windows and the version is Windows XP 32-bit. We have the 64-bit version available, but because the machine my laptop configuration is 32-bit, we're going to go for the 32-bit version. Okay, click next. We're going to leave the default memory size of 192 megabytes. Click next. We're going to check for create a virtual hard drive now. Click create and leave the option for the virtual box disk image checked. Click next. We're going to dynamically allocate the file size, the storage size, sorry, for this drive. Leave the default file size set at 10 gigabytes. And there we have the VirtualBox Windows XP image created. Now we're going to double click on this to power on the image and load the OS. First option is to select the disk that has the OS mounted. Okay, so I have some virtual drives. I've got to go where I have the ISO for the operating system stored. So I go to my Windows Explorer. I have this stored in the OS platforms drive. Okay, so Windows XP Professional with Service Pack 3. This is an ISO file, so I'm going to right click on this and mount this on an ISO drive. So I am going to, using Power ISO, mount this image to drive H. Alright, close this. So when we come back onto the virtual machine, this selection for the OS, when I click, I'm going to click host drive H because that's where the ISO image for the Windows XP was mounted. So now that I've chosen the drive, I'm going to click start. Let me just expand this. Okay, so here we see it's going up through the setup process. Alright, so it's reading the files off of the ISO drive, off of the image, the Windows XP image. So we see all the different files here on this line. That's the setup is loading and starting. You're going to be getting some prompts as it goes along. Okay, so the first prompt is to it's telling you set up XP now. You press enter, continue. Okay, so you press the enter key. Then there is the XP licensing agreement. Press F8 to agree to the license agreement. And it shows now the partition. It's gonna install the OS on. We're gonna leave the settings as is there. Click enter. I'm gonna format this partition using the NTFS file system, the quick format. It's going to take a lot faster using this than if I use the just NTFS file system on its own. So I'm going to choose a quick format, press enter. We see we now set up is formatting the drive. Okay, so it's now copying the files from the ISO onto the dynamically allocated hard drive that we set when we started the system. We just lower this music a little bit here, get this music out so it won't be distracting. Setup is going through the process of copying the files. Because this XP is not going to take very long. It's probably going to take like about 5 minutes. Bigger OSs like Windows 7 and so on, they take a lot longer on this. I'll just pause the video for a couple of minutes or so, or while the file copies are going on. Okay, so the XP finished loading the files, and it's going ahead now and go through the installation steps. We've already collected the system information, done the dynamic update, prepared installation, and now we the option here where it says installing Windows. We now have a wizard popping up that it's going to ask us for a couple of questions so to customize the Windows installation. Alright, so for the regional language options, if we click on customize, you're going to see we have options for the language type. How do we do the numbers, currency, the time, the date, short date, long date, etc. In this instance here, we're gonna use the English United States, and location we're gonna use as United States. So we just click OK, click next. It's gonna ask us here now for the name and the company registration. So name, I'm gonna put Martin Pereira, which is my name, and so it's gonna put any company name. Next. Okay, so we're going to enter the product key now in the product key field. MR4 9R DRJXX M6P X2 V96 BF 8CK BJ. Click next. Okay, so it's gonna ask for, it's set up creates an user account called administrator. It's gonna ask for a password. So we're gonna go p@ssword, confirm, Apple P, @sign, come on, ssword. Next. Ask to confirm the date and time and the time zone. Here we are in Trinidad. We are at the same time as Eastern time for the US and Canada. But also we scroll down, go to Caracas, La Paz, and this is the time zone area that we will select. Alright, Caracas, La Paz. Next. Alright, now Windows XP is installing. And this is going to take a couple of minutes. I am going to pause the video while this is going on. So right now the setup is asking for you to choose whether to use a typical or custom settings for the network setup. In this case we're going to just use the typical settings. Next, we're gonna set this computer up in our work group. We have not created a domain as yet to include it in the domain, so we're gonna just leave the default work group settings checked. Okay, so setup is continuing in the meantime. Alright, so Windows XP is finalizing the installation now. It's almost done. It has, as it says, it will complete in a minute. So here we see it's done, all installing the files, removing all the temporary files, etc. And machine has just rebooted now, and it's about to launch and load the OS for the first time. And here we see Windows XP operating system starting up the Windows XP virtual machine. There's two default messages coming up there. The VM stating that it's going to adjust the screen resolution to give the best view on the OS. Here it is. We see Windows XP machine starting up for the first time now. It's just going to ask you a couple of questions in the setup. So I'm not going to choose the option to do the automatic updates, right? Here it's checking for network connectivity. I was asking if you're going to register Microsoft, and I'm going to say no, don't register this time. I'm just going to skip this part here where it's asking for users on the machine, because this is where you add any users you want to operate in the machine. So it will set users up there on different profiles. But we can do this on the fly after the OS is up, to the control panel. Go to the user options. Okay. So we try to go past this without adding any users, and it's saying at least one username must be entered. So I'm going to enter my name as a user. And that's it. We have the Windows XP set up and ready to go. Click the finish button. It's gonna load your desktop for the first time. We're just waiting for XP to load. First time use, and here it is. We have the Windows XP desktop being loaded. So it's seen my name as the user. That's logged on. And that's it for the installation of the Windows XP virtual machine. In my next video, I will be installing and configuring the Windows 7 machine using the same Oracle VirtualBox. I'm more or less going through the same process that we did for setting up the Windows XP. Okay, here I am back on my VirtualBox, and we see Windows 2000 Server 8 running, and we have Windows XP running. So now we're going to set up a Windows 7 virtual machine. Again, we click on New. When the Create Virtual Machine window pops up, I'm going to type Windows 7 here. That's the name of the machine. And you see it's type Microsoft Windows, and the version automatically selects the Windows 7 32-bit. Okay, and click on Next. I'm going to use all the default settings that was going to be checked off. So I'm going to leave the memory size at 512 and create the virtual hard drive. We can use the VirtualBox disk image. Again, we're going to leave it set as dynamically allocated. 25 gigs as the default file size. Create virtual hard drive now. Okay, so we have the Windows 7 machine set, but it's currently powered off. One thing I'm going to do before I'm going to change the settings for the machine. This is something I should have done on the Windows XP machine, but I'll go back and do that just now. So I click on the settings tab. Okay, so I'm going to press the settings option in the menu here. Windows 7 settings comes up, and I'm going to go directly to the network. And for adapter 1, I'm going to change this to bridged adapter. Advanced, make sure the Intel Pro 1000 MT desktop is set. And click OK for. And then go to Windows XP and click on it. Do the same thing for XP. Click Settings, Network, Adapter 1. I'm going to change this to bridged adapter. Click on Advanced. I'll have to change this when I have the machine off. Okay, so now I'm about to set up the Windows 7. So I'm going to power on the Windows 7 machine. In previous two videos, I mounted the ISOs on a virtual drive using Power ISO. But for this installation, I'm just going to go straight to where I have the ISO files stored and unload them from there. So I'm going to click any browse button to choose the file. I'm just going to wait for the machine to respond. And I'm going to go to where I have my ISO files stored. Okay, and I'm going to choose the virtual image, ISO image for Windows 7 Enterprise. I'm going to click Start. Okay, now we see Windows is loading the files. Just take this off. virtual machine is now starting Windows 7. It's going to ask a couple of questions in the wizard setup before it does the actual load of Windows 7. Okay, so it's going to ask you for the language to install and the keyboard input type, time currency format, and we're going to be using English language, English US, and US keyboard input method. Okay, install right now. Now we see setup starting. We just wait for it to start. When you have a license, end user license agreement, you're going to click to accept the agreement. Click next. So now we are not doing an upgrade because we didn't have a version of this installed before. We're going to be using a custom. Let's allocate the space as we chose earlier, almost 25 gigabytes, and we're going to use the zero partition. Next. And now we see where the system is installed in Windows 7. We just pause the video for a few minutes while this installation process goes through. Okay, Windows has completed the installation and is about to restart the virtual machine. Alright, so we see Windows 7 is now restarting. When you see this message coming up, you just press enter or leave it alone, and it'll just go straight ahead and continue the boot up process. So now we see it starting Windows 7 for the first time. Alright, so the setup is now updating the registry settings. It's going to take a couple of minutes. It's almost through. where it says set up a starting services. There's all these services like the print services, communication services, etc. And now it's completing the installation. Now it's finalizing the installation. Okay, so the setup has finally completed the installation, and it's about to restart the machine. And here we have the machine restarting again for the final time. As it says, the setup is preparing your computer for first time use. So now it's going to ask you for a username. It's going to ask you for a computer name as well. For instance, here I want to call my computer Windows 7 PC. Next. Password, it's going to ask me to choose a password. It's going to ask you for a password hint. Next, I'm going to use the recommended settings. Actually no, I'm just going to say ask later to do the updates, because if I say use recommended settings, it's going to go to the internet and download and install all the different updates for Windows 7, and I don't want to do that as yet. I want to do that on my own. So I'm going to say ask me later. I'm going to choose the time zone. I'm going to click Georgetown. Next. Right now I'm going to set this as a home network. Because I'm not on any network where I'm attached to a domain or whatever. I'm just setting this virtual machine computer for home use. So as you can see, it's finalizing these settings, and that's going to now launch your desktop. Windows 7 is not preparing the desktop for the first time use, so it's going to take a couple of minutes when this happens. And here it is, we have the complete desktop now, and Windows 7 virtual machine has now been created and it's ready for use. Thank you for looking at my videos. My next video, I'm going to be creating a workgroup network using all the virtual machines that I created, and show you how they can reconfigure them to connect to each other and see each other on that network. Okay, bye for now.